Hey y'all, Dave Isaacs back with you for jamplay.com, and in this lesson we're going to take a look at the idea of what jazz musicians call playing changes. And what that means is that you are choosing your notes based strictly on the chord that you are playing over, and when the chord changes, you might completely shift to a different scale or arpeggio to go with that changing chord. We're playing over a jazzy variation on a blues form. Let me walk you through the chords. We're in the key of C, starting off with C7. 1, 2, 3, 4, just like any other blues, and then we go to the 4 chord for 2 bars, and back to the 1, but then we have a turnaround, E minor, A minor, D minor, G7, C, A minor, D minor, G. We're bringing in what are called 2-5 progressions. The numbers refer to the position of a chord in the key, so 2-5 means taking the chord of note 2 and the chord of note 5, and that's generally used to point back to 1. In a lot of jazz harmony, you can borrow 2-5s from another key to point you to a particular chord, and that's actually what's going on here. We're in the key of C. C is the 1 chord, F is the 4 chord. When we hit this E minor A7 progression in bar 8 of the 12-bar sequence, what we're really doing is setting up the D minor that's going to show up in bar 9, because E minor 7 and A7 are 2-5 of the key of D. But we're going to show up with a D minor, which is actually 2 of the key of C. We're pointing to a G, which is 5, key of C. So if you've ever heard someone that play jazz talk about practicing your 2-5s, that's really what they're talking about, this idea that that particular little chord sequence is used to sort of push you through a sequence of chords, a series of chord changes. So E minor A7 is 2-5 of D minor, which sets up 2-5 of C. Again, if you can't quite keep up with the math, take my word for it. It is a sound that you will learn to identify, and even right now, if you listen for it, you'll hear it whenever it happens, because it's the thing, aside from the overall vibe, that 2-5 progression, the use of the 2-5 progression is what makes this blues sound jazzy, along with my note choices, which now we're going to take a look at. We're starting off over the 1 chord C with this lick. So what's going on? We have a hammer-on from a D sharp to an E. Well, actually the D sharp here at the 8th fret is also an E flat, which would be the minor 3rd in C, and the note we might find in the minor pentatonic, but we're going to hammer, and so we have the minor 3rd being used to set up the major 3rd. Because from here, that's straight C major pentatonic, so we're just adding a minor note to C major pentatonic here. 1. And then that's just walking down C major. And notice the hammer-on once again, 8 to 9. So 8, 9, 8, 10, 8, 10, 8, 10, hammer, 8 to 9. And then now this is walking down essentially Mixolydian, the root, the minor 7, the major 6, the 5. You might be saying, well, wait a minute, isn't that Dorian? Well, it could be. Let's find out. There's back to that major 6. And look at that. E flat at the 8th fret of the G string. So that is more the minor tonality. So listen to how 1 lick focuses major, 1 lick aims minor. All that over C. We're now going to move to an F chord And so I'm going to shift this whole business. I'm going to take the same fingering I used over the C chord, move it up to the 13th position, and play the same lick. 1. So we were here, and now, but then, so 13th position, 13, 14, 13, 15, 13, 15, 13, 15. This is being used just to set up, add some flavor. But notice that half step bend. So I'm hitting fret 15 on the B string to fret 12 on the G string, and then bending 15 up a half step. That note is an E flat. Remember, that was the minor third of C. It also happens to be the 7th of F7. So that works beautifully over that 4 chord. Then we move back to C, and we have a little major pentatonic lick with a chromatic passing note. 2nd string, 13, 3rd string, 14, back to the 2nd, back to the 3rd, down a fret, down a fret. I've landed on a G. This is now part of a C chord, but remember I talked about those 2 5s. The chord we're over right now is an E minor 7. This happens to belong to E minor as well. The E minor goes to A7. The G belongs to A7 as well. Even that in itself sounds jazzy. I don't have to do anything more than that. Moving on, next chord is a D minor. Here is basically a D minor 7th arpeggio, but set up by a major 7th, a C sharp. Are we suddenly on D harmonic minor, or are we just using a chromatic leading tone? All that matters is how you understand the use. This part would be a straight D minor 7 arpeggio. Here's the lick, 1. So C sharp is just leading us into the D, fret 11 to fret 12 of the D string. This is up a D minor triad, D minor 7, D minor 9, resolving down to D. So all that would fit just the D minor 7 chord. But it also resolves us into the G7 because this D note is part of G. And then we have this line, starting in the 10th fret of the D string, 10, 12, G string, 9, 10, 2nd string 10, 1st string 10, 2nd string 13, resolving us back to C. Listen to this lick. C to D. So this C is a dissonance that sets up the D that follows. We walk up the scale, E 9th fret, F 10th fret. Now on the 2nd string, this 10th fret A is the 2nd of the chord, so the 9th. This is a high 5th, and resolving down to C, which will match the resolution of the chord. Listen to the D minor lick and the G7 lick. You will hear the implied chord changes. Here are the chords. Then we're going to finish up our 12 bar with a little bluesy lick. At least it starts bluesy. Tiny little bend. Quarter tone, really. That's pentatonic. But then this 10th fret A is major pentatonic. And we're also over an A minor chord at that point. We have a turnaround. C, A minor, D minor, G. And so over the C, we have this little pentatonic lick. Over the A, we have an A. Over the D minor, we have an F, 10th fret of the G string, which is in the chord. And then A to G, which is using the A chord tone of D minor to set up G chord tone of G. All of which that's got a C major pentatonic kind of sound to it, but just makes it very sweet, very melodic when I'm paying attention to the chords that are going on underneath the notes. Now another 12-bar cycle, we're going to go down to the open position and play a very similar lick. Starts off just like the other one did. We have our minor third, major third set up the arpeggio, here's the 5, here's the 6th, here's the root, walking down, minor 7th, 6, 5, minor 3, major 3, root, 1. Hammer. Still over C. G is a chord tone, the 3rd fret, 1st string. F is a neighbor tone, 6th fret of the B. D sharp, grace note sets up the E, 5th fret, and then 3rd string, 5th fret is C, going with our root, and down to the 3rd fret B flat is our 7th. Notice how the use of this F and this E kind of implies a C sus4. Just brings a little bit of that flavor into that moment. So listen to these two licks. 1. And 1. Now we go to an F chord, and we're going to use a similar approach. Work off the triad. Here's the triad. 3rd fret of the 4th string, 2nd fret of the 3rd string, 1st fret of the 2nd string. This is likely to be familiar, F chord. You can see, just watching my hand, how neatly that lick falls out of the chord. 2, 3, 4. Root of the chord, F, 3rd fret of the D string, setting up the 3rd of the chord, the 5th of the chord, up to a major pentatonic note and back, 3rd of the chord, 5th, walk up. Ooh, look, maybe it wasn't major pentatonic, maybe it was mixolydian. And here's the lick. So taken all together, looking at both measures, it is F mixolydian. And then we're back to a C chord, walk up the arpeggio, starting from our C root on the 5th string. And now we have E minor A7, and I'm going to walk through those again as well. Just straight E minor 7 arpeggio, 2nd fret of the D string, open G, open B, fretted D at the 3rd fret of the 2nd string, and then A7 arpeggio, that D sets up C sharp, which is the 3rd of A7, E is the 5th of A7, G is the 7th, resolving into an F, which is not in the chord, but it is in the D minor chord that's coming. We walk down the C scale over the D minor chord. Now, I wasn't really emphasizing chord tones there because I put the E on a strong beat, C on the strong beat, stopping on that B, a little bit dissonant, but it really is a Dorian flavor over that D minor. Then G7, I'm going to just walk up this familiar arpeggio, G7, starting on the D string, fret 5, G string 4, B string 3, B string 6, coming down to the 5th of the chord, down to the third of the chord, and then resolving B to C. Now look at this. I just jumped to that, but this is just 2 notes from an A7 bar chord. This E happens to be in the C chord. The C sharp is matching the A7 harmony underneath, setting us up to move F on the 8th fret of the A string, D on the 7th fret of the G string. Those 2 notes belong to D minor 7, which is the chord we're playing over, and then walking just down the scale. 7th fret, 10th fret of the D string, 9th fret. I'm going to play that whole chorus. 3, 4, 1. 4, 1. 2, 3, 4. Pretty clear where those chord changes are, right? And that's the whole idea. We're outlining the chords. Last chorus. You should be recognizing some of these sounds by now. Let me just play this lick. 1. C major pentatonic. But jumping to a dissonant D sharp, still used the same way we've been using it all along. Set up E. Minor third, major third. 1. And then jumping up to the next C arpeggio position, 8th position, and again doing that minor third, major third hammer-on, going 3rd string, fret 8 to fret 9. Same thing, it's the combination of these major pentatonic sounds with that minor third. 2, 3, 4. This is over F. Look at this. Straight out of an F triad. 8th fret of the E string, 10th fret of the B string. C minor pentatonic. Now walking up a C scale, C to D, 10th fret of the D string, 7th fret of the G string, but D sharp this time used as a passing tone on our way to a 9th fret E on the 3rd string, E minor arpeggio, fret 9, fret 8, fret 7, and then resolving down to an A note to go with our A7 chord underneath. Now the chord is D minor, we've got a descending run, 13th fret of the high E, 1. Well, what's going on there? F, E, D, C, B, A, G, D Dorian, but also C major centering on D. F is in the D minor chord, E is passing, 13, 12, 10, 10D is in the D minor chord, walking down C, 13th fret of the B, B, there's our Dorian note if we're thinking of it that way, A at the 10th fret is a chord tone. G is anticipating the G chord, which we're about to reach, and then we're going to continue a line, fret 10 of the G string, just walking down within the chord, basically. F at the 10th fret of the G, E is a passing note on the 9th fret, D is a chord tone on the 12th fret of the D string, B at the 9th fret of the D string is also a chord tone, reaching back up to the 12th fret D, resolving to C. And then a little tag line back in this 8th position C form, a bend from the 10th fret to give us a nice minor 7th. There's a Mixolydian sound, major 6 with minor 7. So 2nd string, 10th fret, bend up, release, 8th fret, ring finger, 10th fret, of the 3rd string, hammer 8 to 9 on that string, minor 3rd, major 3rd, root, and ending on the dissonant 7th. So the last line goes like this: 1, 1. Once again, hearing the chord changes is not difficult. Let's try it together against the track. Quite a bit more challenging in a lot of ways, but hopefully this is bringing together a lot of the different things that we've been talking about from the beginning. You can see how we're working basically in C major, but we're pulling out notes that belong to the various chords we're passing through and making alterations, our abacus concept of moving a note up or down to fit the chord whenever the chord demands it. That's what makes the melody imply the chords so strongly, because really we are playing the chords just as arpeggios and lines that spell out the notes that belong to the chord. In the next lesson, we're going to take this a step further and use chromaticism to include some more notes that don't belong to the key. I'll see you there.